All right, well, welcome back to the P18 podcast, everybody. Our guest today is Miss Elizabeth Tompkins. Miss Tompkins is a proud member of our Social Studies Department here at Prairie High School. Thanks for taking some time and talking with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm proud to be, I know you're trying to get this off the ground, so I'm proud to be part of the groundbreaking crew that helps you hopefully make this successful for the public.
Well, thank you.
At the school. Yeah.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. I do have some questions for you today, and primarily about yourself and Prairie High School, and we're going to give you some time to talk about each one of those questions and any information you'd like to give us on each one of them, okay?
Okay.
So first question, can you share a little bit about your journey and how you came to be part of Prairie High School?
When I was in the throes of graduate school,
okay,
Dan Serrano hired me for a position in social studies as a U.S. history teacher, and I didn't get that job. But he had the presence of mind to look at my resume and saw that I had a pretty 17-year career in photography and picture editing. So from there, he passed my resume to Heather Patterson, who was in your position at the time,
sure,
Kevin, overseeing activities and hiring in the Fine Arts Department. And Heather hired me really to build the photo program in the D building. And I got to do that for 9 years before I came over to social studies. And that's where I teach now, AP Government, and AP Human Geo.
So, and not to, kind of get anybody upset with you, but you've been in two departments now. Do you prefer one over the other some days, or?
I loved the 9 years that I was in the art department, and I didn't want to be anywhere else. And I've loved the past 8 years in the social studies department, and I haven't wanted to be anywhere else. By nature, they're different. In the art department, there's more moving parts. I don't think people understand the extensive management that art teachers do. That's very different than when you're in an academic environment and you have four walls and it's more contained. I don't want to go back to the art department, but I loved all the years I was there.
All right, so let's talk about your day then as a social studies teacher. What does a typical day in your job look like?
Well, I park my Jeep. I walk up to the second floor of the C building with my coffee. I try to get here by 6:45 and just take the students through what I have planned for them for the day, activities, lessons, and hope that they leave enlightened somehow.
Maybe they enlighten you on a day.
They do enlighten me. They blow me away sometimes. They're so smart and they're so creative. As we get older, we don't remember what it's like to think like a teenager, be like a teenager, but it's a very creative, emotional time in your life. And so they come at things through a side door or a different way. And there's not usually a week that goes by that I'm not a little blown away with the intellect of a teenager. And it's good for me.
So what part of your job would people be surprised to know about?
That's not political. I teach political science, and people find out, they're like, oh, you must be having interesting conversations. And we do. We do have interesting conversations, but they're not combative and they're not divisive. The class motto really is, you check your heart at the door and your head's in the classroom. So there's so much good conversation and controversy just in the mechanics of our Constitution, our Federalist Papers, and Supreme Court cases. There's plenty to talk about. But really, looking at the landscape of my classroom, I should be seeing political scientists and not political operatives, and there's a difference.
Sure. Very nice. All right, let's change it up just for a second, okay? So if you could have dinner with any historical figure, could be past or present, who would it be and why?
Lately, I've been thinking James Madison, who's the architect of our Constitution, and here's why. Last month, I went to a Bill of Rights seminar with some other teachers, and we just nerded out for the day. And we got in this robust conversation that wasn't political. It was constitutionally based about judicial review. And I would really like to ask James Madison a couple things like, why are some things enshrined in the Constitution so clear, and other things that we know that was your intention, but it isn't written there? I'd like to know why certain things are said the way they are and why they're not. And then on a personal level with him, he had a wonderful marriage with Dolly Madison, but they never had kids. And so and at that time in human history, if he didn't have children, it was just different. I wonder if it didn't make him a better president, more of a public servant. But I don't know. I think that would be an interesting conversation. First of all, just to get codified, what did you mean in Article 3? And then the other stuff too. Yeah.
So what do you wish that more people understood about Perry High School?
While we are a big public high school, and we are, at one point we were the second largest in the state, I wish that people knew there are components of Perry that function like a private school. For example, we have a STEM program and a counselor dedicated just to STEM kids. And they have teachers, some of whom have prepared our graduates for the Ivy League, and I think that's remarkable. Over in the art department, it's a 4-year program, like a little Juilliard, a little Savannah Art of School and Design. Our basketball coach isn't just coaching athletes, but cultivating young men. I would like the public to know, not just lump us into being a typical public school, because there's a lot of parts of Perry that are very specialized and very private. So maybe this P18 podcast will make it more evident to the public.
And finally, as far as official questions we have, we all have choices where we can work.
Okay.
What makes Perry the place for you?
Besides that, you keep renewing my contract, and I'm grateful. I live right by Chandler High School, and it's a beautiful school, and my son graduated from there, and I'd be honored to work there. But at Perry, I have been able to have 2 really meaningful teaching careers on the same campus, and I don't think a lot of people get to say that. So it's a special place. Gilbert, this area isn't my direct community. My community is more towards Chandler High School, but I like Perry kids. I like teaching here. I like the vibe that we have here. Yeah. Another thing I don't think people understand isn't common in any workplace that we have here at Perry, and this just occurred to me, is that in most of our departments at Perry, we have teachers who come back. They leave, go do something else, and then they come back. Well, just in your staff in the front office, Nancy and Tricia came back after being gone. And that's not common in the private sector or even public education. Usually when people leave, it's like, well, it was nice knowing you, but people keep coming back home, and I think that says something about the spirit of Perry. The cliche is we're a family, but I think there's some validity to that.
That word that we use every once in a while around here is paradise.
Paradise.
And we do say that a lot, and sometimes grass is not greener, and we do have people that leave us for one reason or another, but then more oftentimes than not, they do come back to us.
And sometimes the reasons are just there's more opportunity somewhere else. I taught next door to a basketball coach. He's a talented basketball coach, a talented AP teacher, but there wasn't an opportunity here yet for him to be the head basketball coach. We already have an excellent basketball coach. So he started a program at another school in another district, but I know he'd come back here like that. It's opportunity.
Well, those are all the questions we have for you today. Ms. Tompkins, we really appreciate your time and being a part of the P18 podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. And thank you, Mr. Bernier. This was fun.